versatile. I honestly think that of all the vegetables that I have available to me, it's a tie between this and spinach. I love spinach almost exactly the same as I love green beans.
Green beans are pretty easy to grow.
Are they?
Yeah.
How do they grow? Is it just like on a
It's on a vine, basically.
on a vine, and they just hang off, and
Yep.
you hand pick them when they get to the
Walk
right
over
size?
and go, well, those look good.
Okay. There's a organic farmer in Lebanon, Tennessee, Lester Mitchell, and he's a great guy. I mean, I met him and instantaneously wanted to support him. He's like the second generation or third generation of farmer in his family, and I basically asked him, hey, what can you grow? And he says, what do you need? When I move out there and I decide that I want to do my own restaurant, I'm going to do farm to table, and he's going to be growing all of my produce for me.
Nice.
I think his son was actually on The Voice and actually did very, very well.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure it's all hearsay, but in a small town like Lebanon, anything that's unusual gets first billing on the news.
Was it the potatoes you said were running for another 15 minutes?
About 10.
10, okay.
So by the time I finish cleaning these, I should be ready to take the potatoes out and
I have a
start.
potato timer running over there.
Oh, he cares about the potatoes. You know that.
Forget everything else. I don't care about your chicken. I don't care about.
Well, the chicken's good too. It's just,
Yeah, you're 4 minutes and 34 seconds into the chicken.
Okay. So, this is the one-man band routine that I'm about to do.
No, it's when I was growing up, we essentially had a victory garden.
Okay. I don't know what the term victory garden means.
During World War II, people grew their own produce, like little gardens in their yards and stuff like that. And the term became victory garden. But basically, it was it still kind of applies nowadays. People call them victory gardens, but yeah. So you grow your own produce. So we grew our own potatoes, our own tomatoes, squash, blackberries, blueberries.
That's very groovy.
I call them freedom gardens today.
like right up there with Freedom Prize.
Yeah, exactly. Freedom garden.
Do you get less pulmonary embolisms from freedom fries than you do from French fries?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So, scientifically proven fact.
Freedom trans fat. It's my favorite.
See, growing up, we always had vegetables. My mom has like the biggest green thumb I've ever seen. But we always had a fight with the birds and the dog for the vegetables and the fruit.
Wow. Okay.
Mark, 6 minutes into the chicken.
You are very concerned about the chicken, and I appreciate
I'm gonna
that.
stay on top of it.
Damn it, man! Don't you be messing with my chicken!
5 minutes on the potatoes.
Boom.
You got those military voices down now, don't you guys?
Well, I mean, they kind of were in.
We learned to project.
Yeah,
Speaking in a clear voice, we're not yelling.
yeah, didn't grow up around the military at all.
Sorry, she yells. It's very the usual, like in the front of the throat.
Yeah. It doesn't work so well in the library. Kind of raises eyebrows though. Public
What,
library.
projecting?
I'm here to check out a book, ma'am.
Okay.
I like this baking in brine. That's
Well, what we want is we want super tender. I mean, there's nothing worse than dry turkey on a Thanksgiving. So how do we stop that? How do we nip it in the bud?
I can think of one thing worse.
Bacon.
Dry watermelon.
I've baked chicken turkey upside down. So all that dark meat, juicy, fatty stuff went down into the white meat, breast meat, and it was outstanding.
Yes, but they can even overcook that. I mean, the thing is, a turkey is tricky. I mean, I can do a turkey for you, I generally use the bag, and the bag keeps all the moisture in. And if you put a little bit of brine into the bag, it also works beautifully. But this way, you're ensuring that the protein that you have worked so hard for is just fork tender and falling apart. And when you mix it with the stuffing, I mean, it's gonna melt your heart a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just put the asparagus in at 350 with the ingredients. So it's just we're gonna let it roast for a little bit. I'm gonna finish the string beans, cleaning them, and that should buy me just enough time to get the potatoes off.
When you say it, it sounds dirty.
Yeah, the moment that came out of my mouth, I was like, and Lee in 4, 3, 2.
And you know it's always Lee.
Well, yeah.
No, I've also got one here. I've changed them all.
I've been wanting to throw out some. That's what she says all night, but I've been refraining myself.
That's very kind of you. Very, very kind. And you just failed.
That's what she said.
So, the main thing about green beans is, no matter how much you make, you don't have to worry. You're not going to waste any. So make a little bit more than what you intend. I got enough of the green beans to make, I think, like 10 portions.
There's never enough veggies.
Well, that's not entirely true. If you have arthritis, then even the smallest amount of eggplant and green peppers can cause a flare-up of that arthritis, and that means that even a little amount is too much. The dreaded nightshade, which also happens to be my favorite vegetables.
Tomatoes?
Tomatoes are in the nightshade family, I believe.
Yes,
Yes,
they
they
are.
are.
They just are called the nightshade because they grow. Their growth cycle, they tend to grow wildly under cover of darkness.
Yeah, growing up we had an issue with cherry tomatoes.
What kind of a issue?
Too many of them. Our entire backyard, we had like a fourth of an acre, was covered in nothing but cherry tomatoes.
This was a factory. Now it's all covered with.
Yeah, we froze them, gave them away, pureed them, roasted them, made ketchup, you name it, we could not get rid of them.
I did something when I was younger. I was going to college in University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and I was renting a house with a bunch of guys, and we had like a little tiny plot of dirt to the side of the house. I mean, it was nothing, and I just had a wild hair and decided that I was going to grow zucchini. so I read the instructions. Instructions, and the instructions were like, put about 3 or 4 seeds into a mound of dirt. So I made myself a mound of dirt, put in a few seeds around, said water profusely. So I watered, and I talked to them occasionally. I'm like, hey, I'm rooting for you, hey. All of a sudden one day, a little tiny sprout came up, and I was like, yippee!
Then he came out the next day. By the way, save the potatoes.
About July, the plants were in full bloom, and they were putting out more zucchini than I knew how to. And at that point in time, I really wasn't that great at cook. I did okay, but the only zucchini dish that I knew how to make was macaroni and zucchini, which I made on one of the previous episodes of Fresh Food Therapy on We Cook TV network on YouTube. I think it was the dinner for 10 for $35 or less. I made macaroni and zucchini like every day for like 3 weeks, and my uncle basically came to me and said, look, if you make macaroni and zucchini one more time, I'm going to there was a threat of violence. Okay, so the potatoes now have been boiling for approximately 12 to 15 minutes, right?
11 minutes and 30 seconds. Mark.
Yeah.
No, like Mark. 11 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh.
Mark.
And so we take this out, and we're going to just stick a fork in, and it looks like the potatoes are fork tender. Okay, now that they are fork tender, and my colander is filled with green beans, we are going to do the most crazy operation you have ever seen. Okay, so can you go onto one of those steel shelves in the back and grab the largest bowl, silver bowl that you can find?
Stop right there.
I know. I was looking to see if there were other bowls. The largest?
The largest.
The largest.
That would be this one.
And from the groans and the struggling, I can tell that you have found the biggest one.
Wow.
There's two.
Yep, there's two about the same
Dude,
size.
this is like a shelter.
I want to
It's a
be
big bowl.
your shelter. When I
Like,
told
you could
you that I
protect a
don't
small
know how to
family from a
cook for
rainstorm
5
like this.
people, I swear I am not being funny. This is one of my small cooking bowls. Just kidding. This is one of the largest ones that I have. But this will be enough for the 8 pounds of potatoes. And here we go. You know, I gotta be honest. Even though it's fork tender, okay, I've got one. So, what we've got is the potato, and I just want to see that it's flaking nicely, because if it's not flaking nicely, then it may need a little bit more time. But that looks like it's perfect. I'm not sure if you can see it, but that's perfect. Okay. May God have mercy on my soul. Now, if it had a problem fitting in the colander before, it's probably going to have a problem fitting in the colander again. But what we want to do is we're saving a little bit, maybe about 3 or 4 cups of water in the bottom, because that's going to be used to help mash. Okay. Now we reserved just a little bit of the water, just a little bit, like I said, 3 or 4 cups. But it's mostly potatoes, they're all steaming hot and everything's great. If you are vegan and you are trying to keep the meal safe and within your dietary restrictions, reserve the water, because you can use that instead of milk, you can use that instead of other ingredients, and all it is water with the potato starch, and that can be used to mash the potatoes. In this case, I'm going to cheat and I'm going to use milk and butter.
Why is that a cheat?
Because it's not the healthiest way to go, but it's the tastiest.
Okay.
So for 8 pounds of potatoes, we're looking at 3/4 of a pound of butter. Oh yeah!
I can already feel the diabetes.
And then about maybe 2 or 3 cups of milk.
Whole milk?
I like to use whole milk. The difference between the milks is kind of silly.
We keep it so it lasts longer.
Skim milk is 1% milk fat. 2% milk is 2% milk fat.
That's twice as fat.
Yep. And whole milk is 3%. So the amount of fat savings that you're getting by the different types is negligible. I kind of like the whole cream in the milk. I mean, you could even go as far as using whipping cream if you want to keep it even richer. You can also use buttermilk if you want.
What is buttermilk exactly? I always wondered.
Buttermilk is an aberration in the eyes of God. I don't know how to say it except it's, imagine if you will, something that's so thick that you don't want to swallow it, and that's buttermilk.
Sounds dirty when you say it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I've added the milk and I've added the sticks of butter. I didn't even break up the sticks. I mean, I could have, but I'm not too concerned about it. You got to pick your tools and you got to pick your battles. If you have a mixer, a nice beautiful mixer at home, by all means use your mixer. If you have the standing mixer, go ahead and use those. I like taking my frustration out on my food. So here we are with the masher, and I am just basically making sure that the butter is melting into the potatoes and that the milk is evenly distributed. It's that simple. Now for seasonings, here's what I'm going to tell you. A little S&P goes a long way, but my secret ingredient, as I will tell you over and over and over again, is Lowry's garlic seasoned salt. And potatoes mixed with a little bit of garlic salt from Lowry's is like instantly going to be a winner. Okay, I'm going to check on the asparagus because it's been in for about 5 or 6 minutes. Maybe a little bit longer.
A little bit longer.
Do you want to hand over the potatoes?
No, we're good. Okay, so here we go. What you see in the little right-hand corner is the asparagus. It's been grilled to the point where it's done. All we need to do really at this point in time is put it to the side, and we'll put it into the oven for a few moments before we go to serve. Good, bad, ugly?
No, we're trying to figure out if we can make tacos with the leftovers.
Yeah.
God dang it, Mom.
Tacos with the leftover chicken?
Yeah, with the leftovers. We've moved beyond dinner at this point and we're thinking of leftovers.
Wow, okay. Okay, now to be completely honest, I'm probably going to call Maria over in about a minute and a half and have her test the mashed potatoes. But before we do that, we're going to season them. Because right now all we have is potatoes, milk, and butter, and there's not enough seasoning or salt in this to make them palatable. the texture may be spot on, the look may be perfect, but we want to make sure that they're seasoned appropriately. Oh my goodness.
Ooh, sexy back time.
Sexy back home. All right.
Where's
So
those forearms, man?
here we are. A nice dusting of Lowry seasoned garlic salt. You're going to be worried when you put salt and pepper into your potatoes. That's perfectly acceptable because it's kind of a little bit of a surprise at how much flavor the potatoes actually soak up.
Now, is there a difference between the white pepper and black pepper?
Ebony and ivory. There is. To be completely honest, white pepper tends to be a little bit more mild, only a little bit. But the reason why you have white pepper is so that it doesn't appear in some of the cooking dishes where the appearance of black flakes may be considered not attractive.
Bug parts.
So generally, I made a dry rub once where I used cayenne pepper, black pepper, and white pepper. I think it was more of a being clever and cool thing than changing the flavor profile at all.
Mm-hmm. No, I have a mother-in-law that uses white pepper for reasons.
Because she's racist.
No. It's the whole hiding the food thing.
Because some people are children and they don't like to see their food with the black flakes.
Yeah, basically, Grandpa swears he absolutely despises pepper and hates it in his food. But so she cooks with white pepper, so he doesn't know it's actually in there.
For peace in the family?
Yes.
And everybody else is like, wow, this tastes really good. It's peppered exactly. He's like, oh, no pepper in mine. It's like, yeah, it's in everybody's food, Grandpa.
Denial.
We
Not just a river in Egypt.
Nope. So we pretend there's no pepper in our potatoes.
Okay, so to be completely honest, I generally do not taste my own food because I have a sensitivity to salt. So things that are salted appropriately taste very, very salty to me, whereas everyone else thinks that they're great. So I'm having Maria, friend of mine, taste the mashed potatoes first. Need a little bit more salt?
We need more salt.
That's what I thought, but like I said, to me, I would taste them and go, oh, these are great, and then I wouldn't want to go any further. Okay, so
Chef Buck says, WTF, can I taste?
you most certainly can. Can you come to Ocean Beach, California? Okay. Now, once this is mixed in, it should be appropriately seasoned. But I'm going to think that they're over salted. Was the pepper all right, or a little bit more?
I would go with more pepper personally, but I think for normal people, the pepper was okay.
Okay.
I live with a Mexican, so I didn't even realize there was pepper in it.
spice at this point.
I've been tempered.
We're there.
Better? Okay, I'm scared to taste it because I think I'm gonna probably think that they're oversalted.
I can taste the 3/4 of a pound of butter. It's great.
Yes! Butter makes everything better. Okay, so,
Do you want to take that?
we made a little bit of mashed potatoes. This is not 5 people's worth, but
It is.
leftovers will be just fine.
No, unfortunately, it is 5 people's worth.
Okay, now I'm gonna crunch through and finish the string beans because I promised that I was gonna do that. And what I really need from my support staff, my friends and family, could you get me the other big silver bowl because we're gonna make the stuffing.
Couldn't have told me earlier. Hey, pull out both.
Where would the fun be in getting you set up for success?
Again. One shelter for 4.
Coming right up. And Maria is able to balance it on her head.
My grandmother taught me. She used to carry water from the fountain in the center of her town.
Life skills.
First world problems. Well, technically that was third world
Third
problems.
world,
but back then.
Those third world life skills.
Okay, so it is at this time that I'm going to give you the secret to the stuffing, and it's kind of silly. I cheat. I totally 100% cheat. Pepperidge Farm makes a wonderful flavored seasoning. So I grab this, and what I do is I put it into a bowl, like so. Now the thing is that it's small pieces, and they're kind of crunchy, and they're kind of small. So what I do is I then add bread to it, and because we were trying to keep within a budget, I bought white bread.
Oh no,
Oh no!
Mr. Bill.
A loaf of white bread. So what we're gonna do is we've got the beautiful seasoned breadcrumbs, and I am just gonna trash this loaf of bread. Whole loaf goes in, and we're gonna shred it up a little bit.